Right, so it is day 71 of my tree planting New Year's resolution thing, and it's very nearly night 71, so let's get on with it. Right, so if we're entirely honest, what is happening here is effectively a little bit of a fruit forest. A lot of the trees that are going in are going to produce an edible product, and a lot of those trees are evergreen trees that benefit from a little bit more shade than they're going to be getting in their current settings. And so what you want to do to make that happen is to plant a very large tree which will shade them throughout their growth. Ideally this would be a tree which is either relatively open canopied or is deciduous, so it's not going to create too dense an area underneath it, and so some light through the year will get through and you can have a growing phase beneath it. And if it's deciduous, it's going to be feeding the soil, building it up. You also would like it to be deep-rooted, ideally, so it's going to be collecting a certain amount of water for itself without interfering too much with the shallow roots of a lot of the fruit trees, which, being riverine in a lot of cases, are not particularly deep-rooted and often tend to have more spreading, anchoring roots. And most of all, you would like it to produce something useful. Now, a lot of the time that is where things fall down. So I'd say things like the kapok do produce a useful product. I mean, I don't know how many mattresses I'm going to need stuffing for over the course of my life, but I'll have the silk cotton for that if I do need to do that. Things like the Brachystegia are really fantastic trees as a strut, as a visual spectacle for producing honey, but they are not themselves directly productive. Today's one is an exception to that. So this is a pecan, which produces a nut, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with. It's a very good nut. I don't think I need to say much more about that. It's native to the temperate to subtropical regions of the sort of Mississippi catchment area in the Americas. So it's not quite adapted to this climate, but because it is a deep-rooted tree and we have a relatively shallow water table where we are, I'm hoping it should settle in quite well, although I still expect, at least for the first year and probably for the first 2 years of its life, it will probably need quite regular water through our rather lengthy drying season. But it should shade this whole area, which will, of course, as I mentioned, contribute to the eventual decline of things like the sicklebush and things like the Paleostigma, the monkey bird, but it will also hopefully contribute to the improved health of things like my jackfruits, things like my lychees, my wild quinines, a fig that is nearby, and it shouldn't be too much of a problem for a self-seeded baobab, which is not too far away. And it will also hopefully shade a line of guavas, very established guavas, that are just to the south of it, which desperately need to be shaded by something to reduce the quantity of the fruit they produce, which will hopefully decrease the insect activity and increase the quality of the fruit they produce. So that is going in with some Dracaena fragrans and Aloe arborescens and some Calico fetch and glow, which should hopefully shade around the base and improve the sort of moisture retention around the base, so the regular watering isn't dried up instantly by the sun. And as well as that, they should act as little markers for where it is and make it less likely that it accidentally gets cut down, because the Mexican sunflowers are cut down to plant. This will probably be up again very soon if the rain does come back. Those will also be transpiring every time I water it and releasing a little bit more humidity into the atmosphere around it, which should keep its leaves from drying out too much. As again, this is not quite the ideal climate for it, but I do know these will grow in parts of Zambia, like in Mazabuka, which does get significantly hotter than we do here, although it is low-lying, so it also gets significantly colder than we do here. So yeah, so that should be everything for today. Thank you very much for watching. Tune in again tomorrow. Well, I will not be planting a pecan. That will be happening again later in the week, so this wind-pollinated tree has something to be wind-pollinated by. I have to decide where. And I will also be uploading tomorrow, hopefully, the reviews, which will be in 2 parts because they are just becoming unmanageable. Thank you very much. Right, so after climate, this little monster is probably the biggest bane and limitation on what I can plant. So this is Ansell's mole rat, which is a near-threatened little subterranean colonial mammal, which is very specific to Lusaka and Central Province sort of plateau area. But yeah, it is hideous and adorable, and I love it. And so I will accept never being able to plant an agapanthus directly in the soil because it's adorable. and very angry.